I understand that people talk about conditionality and causality, but I actually don't think it's useful to even talk about them in the same context or compare them to each other. And so if you feel good about them at the moment, feel free to cover your ears. I don't want to unnecessarily confuse anybody, but Harry's question was a valid one. So I do want to address it despite that. Conditionality and causality, they're not really coming up in the same place. LSAT's never going to ask you to distinguish one from the other. They're not even going to ask about them directly. So I don't think it makes sense to necessarily think of them side by side. But I will say that conditional relationships could make sense as causal relationships. Like I said last night, the example, if I eat pizza, then I'll be happy. That's a conditional relationship. It also has a causal implication because I'm saying that I'm implying that the pizza is what is causing my happiness. So we could diagram the conditional P arrow H. We can also think that pizza does cause happiness. And there could still be other contributing causal factors in any conditional relationship that are not alone sufficient to guarantee a result. So if I said that pizza contributes to happiness or pizza can be a contributing factor for happiness, again, other things could come into play as well. So they get complicated. If I say pizza can contribute to happiness, it may not be a conditional statement, even though it helps. As another example, if you have a reasonable chance of becoming the president of the United States, then you must be affiliated with one of the two major political parties. That's an if-then statement. So it's a conditional. If reasonable chance of becoming president, then must be affiliated. But is having a reasonable chance causing you to be affiliated? That doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to me. It's not that it's causing you to be affiliated. It's that being affiliated is a requirement in order to become president. Another example, if you get a top LSAT score, then you must have studied. But getting a top score didn't cause you to study. The studying actually happened first. So there's a chronological element here as well that complicates the causality, even if there is a truly conditional relationship. Alternatively, I could say, if you use my LSAT resources, then you'll get a top score. In that case, I'm suggesting that the resources are causing you to get a top score. It's establishing a requirement that also is causal. But in the previous example, if you get a top score, then you must have studied. The top score isn't causing you to study because the chronology is backwards. I wouldn't even think about them side by side. I think maybe some LSAT books do talk about them in the same context, but that's never really been something I think about. And so when I look at that, I don't see how that would apply to LSAT prep, at least as I think about it. Because conditionality is, or can be, formal logic in nature. Causal is more informal logic, and you can really complicate things by considering alternative possibilities, alternative scenarios. And I'd be looking to poke holes in any argument containing a gap where there is a causal conclusion. If the conclusion is saying that one thing caused another, you want to problematize that and point out ways that even if the information given is true, which of course we have to assume it is, the supposed result doesn't necessarily follow. Whereas in a conditional statement, well, it's a requirement. And maybe that's a given requirement, in which case nothing to poke holes in. Instead, you might want to take the contrapositive, and of course, be on the lookout for incorrect translations of that, such as I was saying last night, the inverse or the converse, meaning you're negating without reversing, or you are reversing without negating. That's what you want to be on the lookout with conditional stuff. Thanks for tuning into the show. Please subscribe if you haven't done so already to be notified of new episodes as I release them. And feel free to reach out if you need anything at all as you move forward with your prep. I'm happy to help however I can. In the meantime, I wish you all the best and take care.